I'm here because I want to share a little bit about who my sister was, Joanna Bryant, and hopefully give other folks who may be facing the same kinds of experiences and emotions that I am, or people who could be in a position to end up having to experience the same kinds of things I am, a little bit of insight on what it is to have to be exposed to something like fentanyl.
I am here because to share my sister's story. My sister's name is Joanna Bryant, and on January the 15th of 2023, a little after 9 p.m., I got the phone call that she was dead.
She wasn't as strict as my mom. She was like the fun aunt where she didn't get on to you for some of the stuff you did. And like for me, I could basically talk to her about anything and she just listened.
She was 32 when she passed away, and that was this January the 15th, 2023. Um, and I will be 37 in a couple of days, so um, she's about 5 years younger than me. Her personality never changed. It was very consistent all of her life. From the time she was very little, all the way into adulthood, she was very fun-loving, very mischievous, and she would be what most people would consider just that little little pest at times. But it was always in good fun. She liked to get a rise out of people, and um, but at the same time, she was also very affectionate. She wasn't afraid to give you a big hug, squeeze you, tell you how much she loves you, miss you, things like that. And even again, from whenever she was a child until her adulthood, she really never met a stranger.
She was my baby sister. She was the baby out of three of us. We were 18 months apart. It was my brother, myself, and her. Growing up, she was always real tomboyish. She was uh, she was a very outgoing person. She to me she never met a stranger. She could, and if she didn't like you, she let you know she didn't like you. We joked. If my mom, as we got older, if my mom like would call her and get on to her about something or something like that, she would call me on the telephone and she'd be like, Donnie, you better get your mom. And, it wasn't her mom, it was my mom. and so, you know, she was always a very helpful person. Like she, you know, I mean, you needed she'd give you the shirt off her back. She was always like trying to help someone. Me and her went through CNA class together. We had all of our children literally together. We were pregnant at the same time. I literally made a post the other day about it, but sad to say, our very first time um, getting in trouble and going to jail, we went to jail together.
Even at those times when we began to notice and know that she was using things that she should not have been. It never changed her personality, never changed who she really was as a person, at least not with me, for sure. But yeah, as a late teen, 17, 18 years old, we knew she got high. We knew that you know, she had smoked marijuana. It was a pretty common thing for a lot of teenagers around here in this demographic. Um, as she got into her later adulthood years, I'm going to say within the past, you know, 5 to 10 years is whenever we noticed the worst of it. namely due to a lot of physical changes. Um, Again, as far as my relationship with her as her brother, she was always still fun loving. She never really avoided me or anything like that. So most people can say that, they noticed a distance between, their loved ones or the ones that they know and care about that had a problem with drugs. Um, Common theme was, with distancing. And I didn't ever have that with her. She was never distant from me. But I noticed physical changes. I noticed she just didn't look very good. I didn't want to create an environment where I would ask my sister something and then her feel automatically judged and then take a chance at ruining a really good relationship with her. So I had asked other members. I asked our other sibling, my mother, and I would ask them questions like, hey, she looks quite a bit thin. Like, she's been dieting. Is she sick? I mean, is like, she just doesn't look the same. Like, she changes drastically. And the feedback I would get was, yeah, she's been, using X, Y, or Z. Um, and so I would kind of get that feedback. I did, it was the one and only time I had ever done it at all. And I was being as tactful as I possibly could. Um, but I very nonchalantly let my sister know. I was like, hey, if you have a problem with something, if there is something you're doing, something you're going through that's, causing you problems, or you need to get away from it, you can always come to me. You know that, right? It was I was trying to enter in as much as possible without making her feel judged. She gave me a big hug, told me, yeah, no problem. If there's something, I will always come to you. I'll never forget it. And she understood. Whenever I would discuss with my mom or with my other sibling, um, the first time that I'd ever really heard about her doing anything other than marijuana were, she had a problem with cocaine. She had been addicted to cocaine quite a bit. Um, I remember, and it was about 3 years ago. Um, she stopped by my home. She was letting me know that her and her kids, they were moving, away from Abilene to Denton, um, because according to her words, she needed to get away from here. She was, tired of being around here. I needed to get away and get a fresh start. And I knew exactly what she was talking about. She knew I knew what she was talking about. Um, we were good at communicating like that. It's just something she and I had. And as always, anytime that, I had to end any sort of conversation with her, I always told her, I love you. You got a problem? You're always welcome in my home. Um, don't be afraid to, excuse me, I'm sorry. Always let her know that she was welcome around, and if she needed help, I would always be there. She would come down, she would visit, and she'd bring her kids with her, um, and again, I could tell by her appearance. Then I really kind of started noticing not so much her personality, but her behaviors were a little strange. She, she was, very fidgety. She was very, kind of over energetic. I noticed when I would talk to her, if I looked her in the eye, she wouldn't look me in the eye back. She would, kind of look around or look down, and she would glance at my eyes and then just kind of keep looking around. She'd never hold a direct eye-to-eye contact with me anymore, which was very strange. Still very happy, very, upbeat, things like that. Just her behaviors were very different. And I would say that was within the last year and a half of her life. There was, well, yeah, within the last year and a half of her life, there was a descent. She had moved back home from Denton, which I was very pleased to hear. It was great. She had come back, and she had moved in with my mother, and everything seemed to be going in a much better direction because she had left the influence that she was dealing with down in Denton. Moved back home, and she was in the company of family. Um, and again, on the surface level, things appeared very, very good. Her appearance stayed consistent. It didn't fluctuate. She didn't have strange behaviors. And again, like I said, her personality's always been consistent. Until one time out of the blue, about a year prior to her death, it was at night. I had gotten the call that, my sister was in the hospital, that she wasn't breathing, and that they thought she had overdosed on something. It was at my mom's house. A person there, they had called, and people were, were doing CPR on her and things like that, and got her to the hospital. I raced, of course, to the hospital to go and make sure she was okay. And, I was talking to her, and, she was sitting up. She had kind of come out of it. And nurses were kind of telling me off to the side that, we're glad that, whenever she was, she had CPR performed on her, and people were attentive to her when they did, because they, were very likely to have lost her. And they were telling me about the things that they had found in her system when they did the toxicology screen. And it was quite a number of things. I mean, benzodiazepines, methamphetamine, cocaine, just a bunch of mixes of different things, codeine, that she had found in her system. So we kind of got the picture that, she left from a bad situation to try to move away and clear it up. She went into another bad situation, moved back, and was here around home. And then, of course, now that she's back around home, we knew we were dealing with a problem.
I didn't know that she had relapsed. I had kind of had suspicions a couple days prior, but I didn't know fully.
Me and my wife had laid down for bed and went to, getting ready for the nighttime. I'll never forget, I was already asleep and my phone was buzzing. And I woke up and answered my phone, and it was my mother, which is, it's not uncommon for my mom to call me, kind of late. She's a little night owl. But my mother was on the phone, screaming and crying, just like she couldn't even get the words out. I was like, "What?" And I asked her, "I was like, what is wrong?" And words directly out of her mouth was, "Joanna is dead. Joanna is dead." And she couldn't really continue, so they it didn't really, the thought didn't cross my mind. I mean, the first thing in my mind was, my mother is, she's jumping to conclusions. She's assuming something. My sister's probably been hurt, or she's in some kind of bad position, but my mom is overreacting. Until, I heard my mother's screams kind of fade away, and the next voice I heard was, "This is Officer so-and-so." And a very distinct chill ran up my spine. That's when I knew.
When I answered the phone, it was my dad on the phone, and he was like, he was breathing hard, and I was like, what's wrong? What's going on? And he said, Joanna's dead. And I kind of took the phone away from my face and I looked at it and was like, what? What did you say? And he started screaming and he was like, the police are here. Joanna's dead. And I, I was speechless. It was breathtaking. I, I don't know. It was just like a feeling that I can't describe, that I had at that very moment. Um, and I just started screaming. I threw the phone on the bed and I just started screaming. And my children came in there and they were like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?"
My mom was in the room. She started screaming, and we didn't know what was going on. We thought like there was like maybe like she was scared of a bug or something, but she was screaming and crying.
And I couldn't say anything. I just kept screaming, and I put my shoes on and I grabbed my phone back off the bed and got my keys and headed to my mom's house. And the whole time on my way over there, I'm trying to calm down, and I just started praying. I was like, God, this isn't true. This isn't true. All kinds of thoughts started running through my head, like, did somebody do something to her? Did she do something to herself? How did this happen? Um, is all the thoughts that started running through my head.
Police officer had explained that she was found unresponsive in my mother's Suburban. She was found unresponsive, kind of laid over in the parking lot of an apartment complex. Somebody had called it in, and the police officers came, checked it out, realized that she was unresponsive, got into the vehicle, and they pulled her out and began working CPR on her. And they according to the officer, they worked and worked, and the ambulance came and they worked and they did as much as they possibly could, but never could revive her. She had, to the best of our knowledge, she was on her way to work in San Angelo and pulled off to, down a street, pulled into a parking lot of this apartment complex. And all we can assume is that she was feeling the effects of, the fentanyl in her system beginning to take effect. And she didn't want to end up crashing. So, she pulled over to, at least try to park the vehicle so she didn't get into a wreck and, or anything like that. Because when the police had found her, the vehicle was still in gear.
I finally get to my mom's house and I walk up there and my 11-year-old niece walks out and she's screaming and the police are standing on the porch. And I just held her and I was crying. I was like, it's okay, honey, it's okay. I was like, I'm right here. And so I asked her to go in the house because I asked the two police officers that are standing on the porch, what happened and where is she? And they told me that they got a phone call that there was an unresponsive female in a SUV sitting outside of a apartment complex. And so, you know, I don't know. It was like confirmation in a sense. Then, but it was still the initial shock of things or whatever. And so I just kind of broke down all over again. And I go in the house. I get myself together, go in the house or whatever, where everybody is. And, the kids are surrounding my mom, and I just try to go and give them reassurance. Everything's okay. It's going to be okay. But try to gather more details of what happened. So, um, that's whenever the kids proceeded to tell me that she was called into work, which I thought was kind of odd because she never worked on Sundays, and that she had just left the house. Um, and it was 2 hours after she left the house that we got the phone call.
The police officers had let us know that whenever they went through, um, through the vehicle, things like that, I mean, it's a mysterious death. It's naturally a crime scene. They gotta start looking at some stuff. They found some pills on her, which honestly, at this particular point, it was a complete shock to me, um, because for at least the 6 months prior to the day she died, we had watched her go through a really sudden positive change. She was going to church with my other sibling. Um, she would come over almost, every day, if not every other day, and would tell me about the jobs that she was doing, the groups that she would attend and Bible studies, and how she was really turning around. She had let me know that, the day that she had, given her life to God, she had received salvation, and it looked like it was on the up and up. Like she finally found, the end of what was plaguing her and the beginning of a positive future. So for us to hear about, well, now your sister's dead. This is, we don't know what's going on. We found all of these pills on her. It was a shock. It really was.
It was that night, actually, that we were told by the police that they thought, but we didn't get confirmation until March the 3rd, whenever the autopsy came back. And on the autopsy, it showed that she had 49 nanograms of fentanyl in her system. And the coroner who did the autopsy on her told us that every 3 nanograms per 1 milliliter of blood is what was lethal. And she had 49.
She died of acute fentanyl overdose intoxication. Um, Looking at the levels of it, I mean, it's very minute, the amount that that can be lethal, and she had well above that. I mean, enough to for it to do what it does, 5-6 times over.
It was at the end of the year, and like we went back, and it was hard to focus. And we had so much going on. We were so busy trying to get like the funeral ready, and then like we finally went back to school, and the teacher's like, "Why have you like my first period teacher?" She asked me, "Why have I been gone so much?" And I thought she had already knew, so I was telling her, and she was asking me what happened and stuff. But like she took me outside the classroom, not just in front of everyone. And then we finished up our conversation and we went back in the classroom.
Most anybody that uses social media or watches the news, I mean, it was a problem across the nation. I've lived here, in my hometown all of my life, and fentanyl, I mean, as far as it being a huge problem or a major issue, it wasn't really heard about around here. This was something that we would hear about being a problem in, other parts of the country or other parts of the state. And really, it was kind of unfamiliar for this demographic.
May of this year, her and I had been discussing about starting nursing school, because we've been CNAs since I was 19 and she was 18. And we were actually supposed to start nursing school in May together.